2, 1, 2, 3, let's go!
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in this wonderful world on this wonderful Sunday morning for me, Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening for you. My name is Pete and this is Studio Live, today's feedback loop. And today we are talking all about the best budget gear for your mobile recording studio. And I've had to limit it down to mobile because in 1 hour, if I did everything like home studio, mobile studio, I think I would still be here at about the 3 hour mark. So we are focusing on mobile and we're focusing on budget. So if you've got, $50, $100, $200, $300, if you've got a small budget, but you want to upgrade your sound in your mobile studio, that is what we're going to be talking all about here today. If you're here on the live stream, thank you for joining me live, and please throw any questions or any of your own suggestions or tips in the comments as we go along. And if you're watching on the replay, no problem at all either. I hope you enjoy the content, and make sure that you put a comment afterwards if you have any questions as well, because I'm always down in the comments chatting with you good folks, and I do really appreciate all of the advice that you give me, even if you just want to tell me that I talk too much and I ramble and I need to get to the point, which plenty of people do, which is fine. I'm all for that. So what exactly am I going through today? Well, I'm going to give you my recommendations, so my personal recommendations for what I use with my mobile studio. So for those of you who don't know or you're new to the channel, I do a lot of recording in GarageBand. I do a lot of recording on my phone and on my iPad, and I've got a lot of ideas around the sort of gear that you can use, and pretty much at any budget. I've been through the phases. I've done everything from record using just my phone right up to now I've got a USB audio interface with a lightning to USB adapter, and I've got condenser microphones and a few other things as well. So it doesn't have to be difficult. It can be a little bit tricky, and that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to help you navigate through some of the challenges that you have, because if you go online and you go, what interface should I buy? You'll just get 20 recommendations, and you'll get people telling you things and different ideas from different people, some of which is good information and some of which maybe not so much. So today I'm going to give you what I hope is the ultimate guide. Is that too big-headed to say? A good guide of what you can actually pick up. Now, if you do want to pick up some gear, you can that I mentioned in this stream, or any other gear for your studio, you can head to studiolivetoday.com/gear. So that is all of the links to all of the gear that I currently use or that I have used in the past and that I highly recommend. And those are affiliate links over there, which means that if you do buy some gear, they will break off a little chunk and send it my way. So it's win-win. You get some new gear and you get to support the channel and the work that I do here. So thank you for that. What I want to cover first, though, is we're talking a lot about gear, and we are going to in this video, but the most important thing to keep in mind, and I actually did a show about this a while ago, is that gear is not the answer. So getting better gear will not make you write better songs. It will not necessarily make you record, mix, or master better songs. You need to practice writing, recording, and releasing your music first before you start thinking and worrying about what gear do I have, what do I need, what do I need to upgrade. So all of the things I'm talking about here, I want you to take this mindset in. Is what do you need to do differently? So what limitations do you currently have with your current setup? Because it's funny, I asked this question over on the GarageBand users Facebook group, and my buddy Matt Anderson, really cool musician, started releasing his music. He actually said, I just still use my iPhone, and iPhone 8, I think, or iPhone 7. And it sort of made me stop and go, because I asked for recommendations of what people use, and it made me stop and go, yeah, you know what? If you are making good music with just your phone, the microphone built in to your phone, then that is great. And keep doing that until you reach the point where you go, this is really good, but I would actually like a slightly better sound, or I'm getting a bit of background noise, so I want some better clarity in my microphone, or I want to be able to hook up two things at once. So I want to be able to plug in a microphone and a guitar at the same time. They're the sort of things, they're the sort of limitations that you should be having before you start doing anything differently. Because honestly, a pair of earbuds and your phone, I've done an entire video where I recorded a demo using just those, and the quality's good. Like, you get good quality sound, and it's only if you want to actually take it to the next level that you should be looking at gear. So now that I've told you not to buy all of this gear that we're going to talk about today, let's talk about the gear that I would like to recommend. So what we're going to consider today, we're going to consider 5 key areas. We've got microphones, so we're going to talk a lot about microphones. audio interfaces, so how you actually plug microphones or guitars or other devices into your device. And we're mobile here, so we're primarily talking iPhones and iPads. If you're an Android user, some of this will be relevant, but a lot of it is very heavily iOS focused. So the USB stuff you can definitely do on Android. A lot of the lightning cable stuff we'll talk about, and I'll differentiate that out as we go along. Audio interfaces, adapter cables, so things like lightning to USB, camera connection kits, power banks, USB hubs, the like, headphones, which are an important part of the studio, and MIDI keyboards. So they're kind of what I consider are the 5 key categories, and we're doing them in that order because it's kind of the order of importance as you go through. The first thing that you sort of think of is getting a better microphone, getting a better sound, and then it's how do I get a better interface to get my sounds in, etc. So that's what we're going to be going through. We're going to go through, as I mentioned, my recommendations in each category, but I want your interaction as well. So if you're here on the live chat, let me know as we go along. And again, if you're on the replay, then put your comments in. If you've got links to what you use that works for you, share it with the community here. Everyone wants to get the best sound and to get the best advice. And everything that I use is not going to be perfect for you. And everything that I use is not going to be perfect for everyone. So take all the considerations in, work out what you need, what you're recording, and then we'll be able to go from there. So hopefully we get through this pretty quick. Let's have a quick chat to those folks who are here with us live, because I really do appreciate it. If you are here live, throw a comment down, say hello to me. Let me know where you're from. It's 37 degrees here today, really hot. It's about 100 Fahrenheit for you folks in the Northern Hemisphere. And I know that you're getting quite a cold snap. For those in the US who are having snowstorms and the likes, I really hope you folks are all safe, because it looks pretty nasty from what I've seen on the weather. So we have Mr. Higgy Drum, Mr. Leonard Higgins. We've got Dragon Kroll, who's been supporting me really well throughout the week here on the channel. Jeremy Ray Williams is here. We've got Goran Larson. Darren Bryant, hello to you. Hope all is well with you as well. Julio Garcia, my friend, hello. How are you? We've got Fernando Delgado. We've got Bahush Muhammad. Hello to you. Gussie Wells, how you going? Gussie, I still need to do that video on guitars. I'm getting there. And we've got Barry Smith. So I will jump back in and have a chat and check if there's any actual questions that we have there. In the chat, I see a few people are asking some questions already, which is great. So keep those coming. And maybe if you can help me out, if you've got a question or if you've got something you want me to mention, just put like question or a big Q in bold, in like uppercase, then that will really help me out. And I don't usually mention this at the start of the show either, but a few people have asked how you can support me here on the channel. I did mention that studiolivetoday.com/gear. If you want to buy some gear, obviously you can listen to my music. So just search Pete Johns on your streaming platform of choice. You can get yourself a t-shirt at studiolivetoday.com/merch. And if you're here on the live stream, you can also super chat. So there's a little button down the bottom there, which is the super chat button on mobile or on the desktop. So if you want to throw a donation my way, then feel free to do so. But once again, no pressure. This is all information that I want to give to you 100% free. And as I say every week on this show, it's 59 minutes of content and 1 minute of self-promotion. So that's my 1 minute. It was only even 30 seconds of self-promotion. So let's jump back in and start talking content. Let's talk microphones first of all. So why microphones, and why is that the first thing? So I'm talking on a microphone. This is in fact one of the microphones I'll be talking about. This is a Samson CO1, and this is a large diaphragm condenser microphone, and it is one of my choices. It's not the choice that I have. That's one over here. I'll show you in a moment, but it's one of the choices that I have for a microphone because it is just super solid, super reliable, does the job, and I really like it. But the first thing to consider when you're setting up your mobile studio is you really have to think about, how am I going to connect my gear? So very early on, you need to make a decision between a few things. Are you going to use the 3.5mm jack, which is completely viable? There's a 3.5mm jack on some iPhones and most iPads. These days, it's getting harder and harder. But if you're rocking some older hardware like the iPhone 6s Plus that I have here, and you want to use an interface or a microphone that uses a 3.5mm jack, you absolutely have that option. I may need to sneeze in a moment. Pre-warning, I'll try and drop my fader. So you can go with the 3.5mm jack. So the first thing that you can do is literally get a microphone that plugs in via the 3.5mm jack. And you know what the most convenient version of that is? And I think I have it in my pocket. I do. It is a pair of these, a pair of earbuds that have a built-in microphone, because they use, even though I've got my silly dongle attached there, they use a 3.5mm TRRS connection, which means that you get the headphones so you can monitor your signal and you can record it using your built-in mic. So the Apple headphones that come with your device, yeah, they're an absolutely viable option. If you want to step it up from there, there's other microphones that use the 3.5mm. So Rode makes some smart lavalier microphones that use that TRRS connection to connect in. I've got an Audio Technica smart lav one, and there's also Tim Clay over on the GarageBand Users Forum. When I asked this question, he recommended the iRig mic, and I've never actually used it, but I have seen it around. There's two versions. There's the iRig microphone that uses the 3.5mm jack, and then there's the iRig Pro, which is actually a lightning connection and then has its own headphone jack built in. So I think the iRig mic's about $30 or $40 and the Pro's about $100. So if you want to get a better one, and we're going to talk a lot of iRig today because they really do make quality products. They're at the higher end when you look at the budget side because they are a quality product, but they are simple, they are plug and play, and they do the job. And a lot of people highly recommend them. We'll talk about interface in a moment, but just while we're talking about the whole, how are you going to connect? This is one that we'll talk about in a minute. This is the Tascam IXZ. So this is a 3.5mm input jack interface that has a mic pre, it has a guitar input, and has a volume control and a headphone jack. So we'll talk about this in a moment. So that's another viable option if you're using the 3.5mm jack. Option number 2 is using the Lightning port. So there are a lot of interfaces, iRig particularly, that use the Lightning port that plug directly in. There's some microphones like the Apogee, I can't remember the name of it. It's a really expensive mic. It's a really nice looking mic, but it's about $200. They sell it at the Apple store. If you've ever gone into the Apple store and you've looked at that wall of audio gear, the Apogee mic is the one that they have up there, and it's quite expensive, but it's very, very good. My buddy Rick Lisk over at GarageBand Users uses that one and gets a good sound. So that's sort of option number 2. And option number 3, which is actually my preferred option, is to use USB. And when you're using USB, and we will talk about these in more detail in a moment, you will need a Lightning to USB adapter like the Lightning to USB 3 camera adapter that I have here. We'll talk about what these are and why you need them. But all this does basically is converts a Lightning signal to a USB signal, and this one gives you power as well for your device. And then you can basically connect anything via USB, even multiple things with a USB hub, which we'll talk about a little bit later as well. So that is your sort of 3 choices. Are you going to keep it analog? Are you going to use your microphone, your headphone jack as your input source? Are you going to connect direct through Lightning port, or are you going to convert to USB? Reason I like USB is it gives you ultimate flexibility. The cables, yes, they're not cheap. They're $30 or $40 to buy one of those, just those little adapters, but then you are set. You can plug in MIDI keyboard, USB microphone, USB audio interface, anything, USB hub, anything you want can go straight in to your device, and you've got USB flexibility. So that is all very cool. Alrighty. So let's finish off on microphones, and then I'll jump back over and see if we've got any questions or recommendations from the live folks here. So the microphones that I recommend personally are, as I mentioned, the Samson CO1, really good quality large diaphragm condenser microphone. The one that I do recommend most of all, and we'll see if I can do this without it falling over, is this sucker. And the reason it's on this mic stand is I've been recording vocals literally yesterday with this one. It's the MXL 550, and it actually comes in a pack with this, which is a large diaphragm condenser, and if I don't make that fall over, there we go, and a small diaphragm condenser, the MXL 551. And here's one I prepared earlier. This is the box that they come in. Pretty classy, pretty stylish. We'll open up the box and I'll show you what we have inside. So there you go. Ooh, velvety. Well, it's just foam, but anyway, looks kind of cool. So we have the small diaphragm condenser. These are called a pencil condenser often, and these are good for miking up guitars and other instruments. Not so much for vocals, but you can use them at a pinch. And you've got the mic clip there, and you would have seen that it has a built-in mic clip on the large diaphragm. So the reason I recommend this is that this microphone kit, decent quality, a good brand MXL, and it's about $70 US on Amazon. So we're talking budget. I think to get 2 microphones for $70 that you can put straight into your rig. And again, these are XLR microphones. So you will need an audio interface, which we'll be talking about in the very next topic. So you can't plug this or that directly into your phone. Well, you can, but I wouldn't recommend it because you need phantom power for these, which you don't have on your phone. So even if you could adapt the cable, a lot of folks ask me, hey, can't I just get an XLR to a 1/4-inch adapter, plug a microphone directly in and sing into that? 2 problems with that. If it's a powered condenser microphone, you won't have the phantom power to do that, so it won't work. And the other problem is that you won't be able to monitor. So if you're inputting a signal into your jack, then how do you listen to your other tracks? when you're doing your multi-tracking. So a couple of problems with that. Anyway, we'll continue on talking microphones. Where's my rest of my list here? So yeah, the other one that I'll mention here in the budget range, and it is still budget. This is about $100 microphone, or probably cheaper if you pick out one secondhand. A lot of you will instantly recognize this. This is the workhorse known as the Shure SM57. The SM58 is almost identical to this, but it has a filter on the top. So it's got a bowl filter at the end, which is better for vocals. This is better for instrument miking, but if you put it behind a pop filter, it's just like an SM58. So that's why I recommend this one. SM57, built like a tank, solid as, and it's a dynamic microphone. So this one doesn't need condenser, doesn't need power, phantom power. So you can plug this into anything without any phantom power, and you will be 100% good to go. So that's another one that I recommend. And again, all of these are linked over at studiolivetoday.com/gear. And if you do decide to buy anything from there, you will be helping out the channel. So thank you for that. The other thing, so we talked about how you connect things in. We've talked about 3.5mm. We've talked about using XLR microphones via an interface. The other thing you can do is use a USB microphone. So once again, you will need our friend, the adapter. Where'd my other one go? Here's the other adapter. This is just the Lightning to USB without the power. You'll need an adapter to actually connect the USB to the Lightning, but then you can use something like my friend, the Samson Meteor, which is in here. There's cable. Again, it comes in a nice little velour pouch that we have. And that's this little baby here. So this is the Samson. So I'll get back on mic a little bit. Is my audio level okay? I'll turn myself up a tiny bit. I think I'm a little bit low there. So this is the Samson Meteor, and you can see you've got volume control on the front there. You've got a mute button, and then you've got a headphone jack and a USB connection. So this just uses a micro, or is it micro or mini? Mini USB to USB connection here. And the beauty of that is that once we have this adapter, all we need to do is plug that end in there. And there we go. And then this end goes into our microphone, and then this end goes into our device. So it would be as simple as plugging that in there. And if I had my phone, which I do, hang on. If I have my phone, I plug the other end into there, and then we're good to go. So this powers up, and then we're ready to connect. We're ready to go. It's asking me to unlock to use my accessories. I'll do that just so we can show that. Yeah, so there we go. So the little light comes on and we are ready to record. And that's a quick and simple way to get started. So if you don't want to think about interfaces, but you want the benefit of a USB, like a digital connection, then that's a really good option to go for a USB mic. And Samson makes some good ones like the Meteor, and the other ones are the Blue. So the Blue Yeti is a good option. Be careful when you're buying a USB microphone to ensure that it has a headphone jack. And a lot of them, funnily enough, don't, because a lot are just designed for recording spoken word. So make sure you're getting a USB microphone that is good for music, that you can actually monitor your audio. So you've got a headphone jack, you can monitor your audio. Otherwise, yeah, you're going to run into trouble when you're trying to play a guitar and then you're listening to that guitar track and you're singing. You need to be able to hear the guitar. So that's something to keep in mind when you're doing that. Alrighty, let's jump over because I'm going to check and see what the folks in the chat have got to say and if there's any questions. So Barry Smith here. Excuse me. Hey Pete, are you going to get the new iPad Pro, and when are they going to upgrade on the GarageBand for iOS? Two very good questions. Am I going to get a new iPad Pro? I did have a friend come and visit me who had one of the new giant iPad Pros, and yeah, I looked at it and I'm like, yeah, I kind of want one. No, I've just bought the iPhone XS, so my budget for buying new gear is a little bit limited at the moment, so I'll be waiting a little while. I'll be continuing to rock my iPad Air 2. When are they going to upgrade GarageBand iOS? Yeah, I don't really know. I was hoping for a bigger update around sort of December, January, but we haven't had one. So maybe they're busy with, I don't know what. They've got the new iPhone out. They've got the new iPad Pro. Surely they could have some software development. Anyway, watch this space. As soon as there is a new update, of course, you'll hear about it here on the channel. Let's have a look. So Gussie Wells, so I'm an amateur guitar guy and recording is my interest. Yes, definitely. And Gussie's been in touch with me during the week. I'm going to do a video on recording. I haven't done it yet. I'm meant to, on recording guitars with a microphone with the Shure SM57 using an actual amp. So how you can actually mic up an amp and then record that into your GarageBand on your phone or your iPad. I think that would be cool. We've got... So we've got Jeremy Ray Williams. Hello from Springfield, Missouri. Hello, I think it's Missouri, Missouri. Yeah. David Falk, if I get a 2-channel interface, how much RAM would I need to make good recordings to keep up? So yeah, if you're using, so we're talking mobile mostly, but if you sort of stretch that out to say, if you're using a laptop, how much RAM would you need? It kind of depends. Something in the 8 gig realm as a base minimum. 16 these days is better. 4 you tend to stretch, and it's not so much the recording. You can record in with even 2 gig of RAM on an old machine, but then it's the effects and the processing and the latency and that sort of thing. So yeah, at least 8 gig I think will keep you going there. Folks are telling me it's ridiculously cold everywhere that they are, so thanks for that. JB Tuck, watching now, great info. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. We've got a question here. Have you ever tried to record odd time signature in GarageBand? And if so, how do you do that? I have, and I do have a video all about that. So Balez36, I will try and find the link to that video, but if you search Pete John's time signature, or Pete John, I can't even remember what I did now. Pete John's odd time signature. It's literally called something like that. It was about 2 weeks ago. So if you go to Studio Live today and search for something like that, you'll find that video. Basically, you can't change the time signature to a different odd meter, but you can record your own. I think it was called Record Your Own Metronome. So search for stuff like that. You will be able to find that. So Charlie Samula, try the iRig Studio microphone. Use it on GarageBand. It's simple. The iRig mic review, you should do one. Yeah. So I might actually have to pick up one of the iRig mics because, again, I don't use a lot of iRig products. Anyone from IK Multimedia that's out there watching, yeah, hook me up. I'm more than happy to review some if you want to send me some. No, I do buy, like the reason that I don't buy all the gear is that I buy my own gear. That means you'll get a considered review, and this is stuff that I legitimately use because I buy it. Daisy says, I just bought those MXL mics. Good recommendation. Excellent. I'm glad. Guitar mics you recommend other than the SM57. The other one I recommend, and it's over at studiolivetoday.com/gear, is the AKG D5. It's another handheld dynamic mic, but it's just, again, it's similar to the SM57, but I don't know, it gets a slightly different tone. And I guess when you're recording guitars, tone is everything. I also don't mind using a condenser mic. So I actually use this one, the Samson CO1. You can't put it up too close, otherwise it get really crunchy sound. But if you put it a little bit away from the guitar cab, then, or from the speaker, then you get a pretty decent tone with a condenser, large diaphragm condenser. So Samson CO1, a good one, or even the MXL 550 that we're talking about. Thomas B. Kino, thank you for very helpful and informative videos. Thank you. Thoughts on the Shure MV88 for iOS production? For sampling out of the wild, maybe some simple bongos. So for sampling some bongos and things. So yeah, the Shure MV88 is actually really interesting. The reason that I don't talk about it a lot, or that I haven't mentioned it here on the channel before, is because I don't have one, because they're really quite expensive. I haven't got the price here. Let me just price it real quick. So if you don't know, the Shure, where is it? MV88, not MX, MV88. What it is, it's an iOS device. So when we're talking before, it's similar to sort of the iRig Pro kind of devices. Oh no, it's not. This is a different one again. Yeah, so this is just the MV88. Is that the one we were talking about? Just let me make sure. Sorry, MV88. Yes. Yeah, so this is just a little small condenser microphone with a USB lightning jack on the end, and then you plug that directly into your lightning device. They're $150 US, so they're not a cheap option, but they are really good, and I've heard they're good for exactly what you're asking there. For doing sampling, for having in your kit where you're just out and about and you just need a good quality audio recording directly into your phone or your iPad, then that would be a good option. Similar to that Apogee mic that I forgot the name of before. Same sort of thing, a lightning connection. You don't have to have any cables, any adapters, anything like that, and Shure, you really can't go wrong with Shure. The thing I was thinking, that Shure make a really cool little interface, and that was another MV Series 1, which they sell in the Apple Store for like $350. I've not bought one because they're a little bit on the expensive side. So Darren Bryant, for 200, I like the Rode NT1A with a shock mount and pop filter. Yes. So in terms of microphone, the Rode NT1A and the Audio-Technica AT2020 are kind of like your stock standards. In fact, I'll probably get a Rode NT1A as my next mic, because this is probably a $70 mic, and so is the MXL. If you are going into that next price bracket, then the Rode NT1A is like, I've never heard a bad review of it. No one's ever said I got a Rode NT1A and it sucks. So yeah, it's a pretty good option from what I've heard. Jeremy Ray Williams, I like the mic cast from IK Multimedia. Cool. Alrighty. And Gussie says that's so important you mentioned you buy your own gear. Yeah, so I will always mention, so the only things I sort of get generally are some of the apps that I get given to me or given as a trial by the developers that I use here. I haven't actually got any gear, and if and when I do, and am lucky enough for people to hand me over some gear, you will always get a 100% disclaimer and disclosure on that, because you need to know. You need to know that I'm not just saying something is good because someone is giving it to me for free, or they're paying me to say it, because they don't. So it's simple. All right, we better move on because we're 26 minutes into our hour here, and we've only covered one topic. It is the biggest topic, apart from audio interfaces, which is the next one. So we're not too far behind, but I want to make sure those watching on the replay are getting the value that they wanted out of this stream. So let us move on. We are into the realm of audio interfaces. So we already talked about, we covered off what connection you're going to use. So are you going to use your 3.5mm jack? Are you going to go direct via Lightning, or are you going to use USB? The second question when it comes to interfaces is, what are you recording? So are you just recording vocals? Are you just going to be using microphones? Are you going to be recording guitars? Do you need a guitar input? Because as we showed you before, and we'll bring this one back on screen, an interface like this, like the IXZ from Tascam here, has a guitar input, so a 1/4-inch instrument input, or a TRS, or a high Z. It's called a lot of different things, but it's basically your old standard guitar cable 1/4-inch connector. That goes into the center there, or you've got the XLR that goes around the outside of there. So that's what your microphone plugs into. So the two different types of cable are your 1/4-inch and your XLR. So if you're only recording XLR, you can get away with an interface that only has that. So something like the iRig Pre, which is just a preamp. So it's just a preamp, you plug your microphone in, that's all it's designed to do. Doesn't have a guitar input at all. And then there are plenty of interfaces, in fact the majority of the interfaces that iRig sell are designed for guitar, or at least they used to be. Now they've moved into the whole realm of everything else. So the iRig, the original iRig, which is the, I don't have mine handy here, but that's just, I'll try and find that in a minute, but that's just basically a guitar plug at one end and a 3.5mm jack at the other end. So you plug your guitar into one end, you plug it into your phone, it's got a headphone jack, and then you jam away. Really cool, really simple option to get up and running. You can pick up the genuine ones for about $30, the aftermarket ones for about $10. If you just search iRig on eBay, Amazon, whatever, you will find a heap of them. But if you want to step it up, I honestly recommend, the reason I keep holding this one up is that if you are using a 3.5mm jack, this is what I would recommend to start with, because it's really cheap. I think it's $30 or $40, and it just takes you up that next notch. So if you are absolute budget and you've got a device that has a 3.5mm jack, I like the Tascam IXZ because battery operated, so you can just plug in your batteries there. You've got phantom power. You can use any condenser mic that you have via XLR. You can plug in any instrument. It's not just guitars too. You can plug in your keyboards, anything that outputs a standard signal, you can actually input into that. So I've recorded piano, I've recorded keyboards, I've recorded guitars, obviously direct in using that, and I've plugged in a bunch of different microphones to record with that as well. So that's kind of your absolute budget when you're starting out with an interface. The iRig Pre is kind of the same thing. So the iRig Pre comes in the 3.5mm version and an HD version with the Lightning connector. And then you get into the whole world of the Lightning. So a lot of folks over on the GarageBand Users Facebook group, I asked this question and they told me a bunch of the interfaces they use. So we've had the iRig HD that James over there recommends. We've got the iRig Keys IO, which is pretty cool. It's a MIDI keyboard combination with an input. It's pretty pricey, but it's very cool. And in fact, Patrick, my buddy over at GarageBandGuide.com, actually did a full review on that one, and he really likes it. So that's an option. The iRig Pro, the Apogee Jam is one that a lot of folks use. which is pretty cool. And my buddy Jeff over there uses the Alesis iDock. So that's a direct lightning connection. And there's Focusrite make the iTrack as well. So there's a couple of these sort of hybrid devices that use a direct lightning connection. So if any of you folks are using them or have used them, let me know what your thoughts are, either here on the live stream or in the comments if you're watching on the replay, because yeah, there's basically too many different sorts of interfaces for me to mention them all. The ones that I do recommend are at studiolivetoday.com/gear, and there's some links in this video to sort of what I recommend, what might be my pick to actually use. And what my pick is, and I can't believe I don't have it. Oh, yes, I do. I was going to say, surely I have it with me. It's almost always within arm's reach. And if you're a regular on the channel, you're sick of me talking about the Steinberg UR12, but I have to. Because once we jump away from using the 3.5mm input or the lightning connection, we get to USB and we get to using a full-fledged interface. Now, this is something that kind of blows people's minds when they first get into mobile recording, is that you can hook up one of these. You can hook up the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2. You'd probably do it the right way around, not upside down. So you can actually use a full-fledged USB interface. The only catch, as we've talked about before, as I smash my glass, is that we need one of these suckers. We need a lightning to USB adapter to actually be able to connect it up, because when you get a device like this, where's my cable? I've put my cable somewhere else. That's all right. There it is. Ugh. Make sure I don't unplug anything while I'm reaching around here. So when you get your interface, you get just a standard USB cable like this, and all we need to do is plug that in there, and then we turn the USB into lightning, and that's literally it. The only other thing to consider, and we'll get to this in the next part, is how to power it. So we haven't talked power, but as soon as you get into USB territory, and as soon as you're using interfaces like this, the reason a lot of folks go for the iRig and the lightning connection is that they're designed to be used on mobile, 100% mobile. So it means that you don't have to worry about how you're going to power your device, whereas something like this, you actually need some additional power. And that's where, and I've not got it with me here, this is one thing I didn't have, that's where I recommend a good quality power bank. So a portable battery that you can use, and I'm doing a video on this soon on the types that you can get, but there's portable power banks that actually have built-in lightning and built-in micro USB cables. And I actually have one of those, and during the week I was testing it, I had the micro USB plugged in here, which was powering my interface, because the good thing about this one is it powers by it separately. So you can power it by USB if it's plugged into your Mac or your PC, or you flick this switch and suddenly you can power it via a separate micro USB input. So that's why I love the Steinberg interfaces, the UR12 and the UR22 Mark II. They both do the same thing. So that's my recommendation there. But yeah, the power banks I was talking about, you can hook one up to this, and then you can use the lightning to actually go into here. So I was literally with one power bank. I had my interface, I had my iPhone, and I was recording, powering my interface and my iPhone. They were both staying charged with one power bank. With a 10,000 milliamp power bank, you can get 8 hours of charge and recording. So I could have been out in the middle of the outback recording my song, jamming away without a power point in sight. So that would have been cool. I didn't. I just sat at my kitchen table and recorded. But yeah, I could have if I wanted to. So that's where we're at. So there's basically any other USB interface that is class compliant can be used. So the Steinberg UR12, UR22, Mach 2, UR44, which again I've got all linked in my gear guide, they are all class compliant. Focusrite are usually pretty good with class compliance. Presonus, Tascam. What a class compliant means, probably important to pause at this point and explain that. Class compliant means that it can run without any additional drivers. So the problem with iOS and using USB devices with iOS is you can't load a driver onto your phone or your tablet. iOS doesn't support it. So whatever device you use, whether it's MIDI keyboard, audio interface, USB microphone, it must be class compliant. Thankfully, almost all devices made in the last 5-10 years are class compliant, because a lot of people have started using them plug and play with their iOS devices. So yes, you do need to be careful. Some of your older hardware, if you go to a thrift store in the US, or you go to Cash Converters here in Australia and you pick up like a 10-year-old USB interface, you may find you come home and you plug it in and it goes, either it won't power or it won't send the signal, because it needs its own separate driver on a PC to run. So that's something to keep in mind. But again, all of the stuff that I recommend, all the things I've talked about in this, and everything over at studiolivetoday.com/gear has been checked and tested and is class compliant. So myself and other people have used it in iOS with no problems. Quick drinks break and we'll continue on with our next topic. Okay, we are 2 topics in and we've kind of semi-covered the third, which was around our adapters and cables and the like. But let's just jump back and see if we have any additional questions that we have here. Okay, so I think we're so that's where we were up to before. So we've got Resturg, just stumbled over your videos and found you live. Awesome, great to have you on board. So Resturg, thank you so much. Thomas B. Klein says, thoughts on iRig Pro I/O. I'm going to record audio for my keyboard and sampling from my old iPhone jack output, sampling from YouTube, etc. The MIDI seems like a very helpful feature also. Yeah, so the iRig Pro I/O, now I think it's pretty costly. So we'll stop and talk about this while we're talking interfaces because it's relevant. So the iRig Pro I/O. Pretty sure this is like the top end of your iRig devices, and from memory, it has kind of everything. Where is it? Here it is, iRig. So yeah, so this is the instrument and mic compact audio interface for iPhone, iPad mic. So $150. So again, you're at the upper end when you compare to your Steinbergs that are around sort of $80 to $100. Then yeah, you're paying a little bit extra, but you get the benefit of not having to have a Lightning to USB adapter. You can plug and play. You don't need to worry about power. So yeah, for a simple solution that's going to be high quality, pretty cool. So yeah, what the I/O has is it has MIDI and it has the ability to plug an XLR or a guitar cable. So it's got everything covered. So the version that I would recommend if you're using USB is the Steinberg UR22 Mach 2 because that has the same thing. That has MIDI DIN connectors and it also has two channels though. So that has 2 channels of input, 2 mic pre's and 2 guitar inputs. The iRig I/O only has 1, but for most people, you're only really recording 1 instrument at a time. So if you're recording vocals, you probably don't necessarily need to plug your guitar in and do it on that as well. And unless you want to record something like a stereo acoustic guitar with like an XY pair of mics like that, then yeah, you may not actually need to have 2 channels. But yeah, it's a pretty good option. I have heard, again, you really can't go wrong with an iRig, especially any of the Pro or the HD iRigs that use the Lightning connection because, again, they're designed to 100% work with your iPad and your iPhone. Sound like an ad for iRig. I don't even own an iRig HD or a Pro I/O, but yeah, I have seen them used and they are good quality gear. So yes, I would recommend if that's what you need to do. Sounds like it's a pretty good option. AKG for guitar. The AKG mic that I mentioned was the D5. I don't have it handy. It's in my kit bag. I actually use it as my, I do ice hockey PA announcing, and I use it for that, which is why I don't ever have it handy because it's a really good vocal mic, and it's really good because it's dynamic. You can just plug it into any mixer, which is good because the mixer I use the hockey doesn't have phantom power, and and it's also good. You get a crisp, clear sound, but again, because it's dynamic, it's not that real crispy sound you get from a condenser. So yeah, and it's what is it, about $100 mic, I think. So it's around the same price range as your SM57, but it's just a different option, and because everyone uses a 57, you kind of cool if you pull out your AKG D5. You're like, yeah, I got something a bit different. Cool. Let's continue on. Gussie says I use a Lightning connector with my Focusrite Solo, and it's great. Yes, the Focusrite Solo. So I've got the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2. The Solo is the same as this. It's just got separated out, so you don't have 2 stereo inputs. So you couldn't record a stereo, but you got 1 guitar input and you've got 1 mic pre. And Focusrite are rock solid. I love this thing. I'm sad that I don't use it. I might have to sell it one day. Anyone want to buy my Focusrite? Because I use the Steinberg so much, I don't actually have a whole lot of a need for it. But yeah. So Kiara Guevara, if I connect my amplifier with my guitar or the electric battery to my iPod Pro 2018, is there a possibility that my iPod will burn or be ruined if I connect my amplifier? Yeah, good question. So you do need to be careful with any sort of powered devices going into your iPhone or your iPad. So make sure that you're using decent quality, like some of the really cheap power bank batteries that you can get that you get for $5 or $10 from eBay. Maybe stay away from them. I use ComSol, which is the Officeworks brand here in Australia, and they've been rock solid and reliable. The one that I'm going to mention in a moment is the Jackery, which I've heard good reviews of, which Amazon sell, which is their brand, not their brand, but it's a brand of the power bank batteries that they use. In terms of audio, so yes, you can overload your signal, and yes, you can do damage to your gear. Your actual iPad is probably not going to have any problems because yes, a loud audio could probably blow out some of the circuitry in your preamp and probably ruin your interface if you played it too loud. But yeah, I've not experienced it, and I've not heard of anyone else experiencing a severe impact to their actual device. They might have ruined a microphone or ruined an interface by doing it too loud. The thing that I recommend is always start at 0 or very low gain on everything, and then do your gain staging carefully. It's a whole other video that we need to do about gain staging, but bring up your gain very slowly, especially if you're plugging it in using amp sims. Like, I've not done this right before, and you get that really loud noise, because if you turn an amp sim plug-in on, suddenly your clean guitar that's twang twang just goes, and yeah, it can cause a problem, just like I probably did to your ears by making that noise there. Excuse me. Got a bit of a frog in my throat today. So David Falk, I might have missed it, but do preamps and lower end interfaces have much to do with your sound, say Sonos versus Behringer? Yeah, so the quality of the preamp does have a lot to do with your sound, but the good thing is that these days, most of your stock audio interfaces have a really nice, really quiet preamp. The reason people use like really high-end preamps is they actually tend to color the sound. So if you've ever heard someone say, oh, I've got a tube amp, like a tube preamp, like you put someone in a studio and they've got like $1,000 tube preamplifier that they plug their microphone in, that's because it'll give it some like nice warm analog warmth to their sound. But most of us in the home studio, what we're looking for is actual noise reduction. We want a quiet mic pre, and we want the ability to capture a clean sound, as clean as possible, without it sort of changing and distorting the sound. So yeah, if Behringer, I don't mention Behringer much because I don't use them much, but they're viable. Like they're a decent option. If you are on the absolute budget end, pick up a $30, $40 Behringer Euphoria interface, a Lightning to USB adapter, and you're on your way. There's nothing wrong with starting out with that, especially. You may then want to step up to a Steinberg or a Focusrite, and then eventually you may want to step up to an Apollo or one of the real high-end interfaces. But you can do it in steps, and the beauty part about this gear is it doesn't lose its value too much. The reason you can't pick up really cheap secondhand or used gear is that it retains its value. So like a Steinberg UR12 like this, it was on sale for $50 over Thanksgiving, Christmas last year. I did a video at the time, and you'd probably resell it for $50 now, probably more. You might actually make a profit reselling your used Steinberg UR12 for maybe $60, because yeah, they're about $80, $90 to buy new. I won't go off on too much of a tangent, but yeah, you can definitely get away with it. You do get what you pay for though. So if a $30 interface is going to have a sound that's going to be a $30 quality, and then a $100 interface will sound a bit better generally, but not substantially so. Not so much that you can't get away with something lesser. Very cool. Thomas B. Kind, thank you. Very helpful answers. You're the best. Oh, thank you. Wasn't a question, but always happy to. Bold Sojo, hang on. Bold Soja for Christ, have you tried the Blue Yeti mic? I haven't, but when I was talking USB mics before, it's one that I do recommend. The Yeti I've heard is really good. The Snowball is the one I think to avoid because it doesn't have a headphone jack. I think it's the Snowball. Be really careful though. Make sure you get a headphone jack when you have that. So yes, and you asked the question again. So yes, thank you. Sorry I missed you in the time before. I meant to say preamps in lower price interfaces. Doesn't very much yet. So hopefully that answered your question. And Brooke Chain, hello. Can't stay for long, but glad you made a live stream. Yes, I do a live stream every week. So for those who aren't familiar with the live streams here, I'm here every week, Saturday afternoon or evening in the US and the UK, Sunday morning, really inconveniently for my Australian friends. But yes, we do this every week. So we are getting towards the end. I better get a move on. We've got 17 minutes and we've got a few things to talk about here. So I'll have a quick drinks break and then we'll jump into our next category. Oh, spilled water on my face. So we've talked microphones, we've talked interfaces, and they really are the things that I recommend to get you started. If you've got nothing right now, they're probably two things that are going to improve your sound. Even at the lower end for a microphone or an interface or a 3.5mm jack interface, you're going to get an improvement on the sound from just using your device. The next thing we're going to talk about, though, is MIDI. So if you are a keyboard player or if you are a electronic musician or basically any sort of musician, you've probably used, if you've used a Mac or PC, you might use your actual typing keyboard, or if you're on an iPhone or an iPad, you have the convenience of using the touch screen, which is really cool for inputting your keyboard instruments. But what if you want to take it to the next level and you want to actually play? So if you're playing a keyboard, then you will want as I break everything again, you'll want something like this. You will want a MIDI keyboard. So this is a USB MIDI keyboard. This is a very old one. This is the Evolution E-Keys 49. Was bought out by M Audio. So now they make the M Audio E-Keys 49 Mach 3, which is the latest version of that, which is a very cool. That's about a $100 interface. There's cheaper ones depending on how many keys you get. So let's first talk about connecting these, and then we'll talk about the different things to keep in mind when buying one, because there's a lot of different options. It can be a bit confusing as to what you can and can't do. So the connections, let's bring up here. You can awkwardly see my connections here. So we've got a USB connection here. We've got a DIN connector, the old style MIDI. We've got a power connection here, and then we've got a sustain pedal and then our on-off switch. And that's pretty standard for most of your MIDI keyboards. And the easiest way to connect a MIDI keyboard is exactly as we showed with connecting our USB interface. So that is using our Lightning to USB adapter and a standard USB cable. So this plugs into your keyboard, this plugs into your iPhone or iPad, and you are off to the races. You are ready to go. And it's as simple as that. It is literally plug and play. You plug it in, suddenly instead of tapping on your screen, you play on your keyboard. And I've got probably 10 or 12 videos on the channel all about how to connect that. So if you go to YouTube, search Pete Johns MIDI keyboard or Pete Johns keyboard, you're going to get a heap of stuff that will show you how to do that. So I won't go into detail about that, but what do you need to consider when you're actually buying one? So if you are buying a MIDI keyboard, there's a few things. Number one is how many keys you want. So they come in anywhere from 25, like little tiny 25 key, like the Akai and the Korg, make a little micro key, little tiny keys. They're cool. If you're portable and you're just putting in like a lead melody or something, then 25 keys is fine. Then sort of goes up through to 37 and 49, which are your mid-size, like the keyboards that you saw there, all the way up to a full 88 key keyboard, which is just like a standard piano keyboard. So you've got a heap of options there, and it really depends on what you're inputting. So again, if you're doing electronic music and you just want to go do dee do 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 do, you want to input your melodies, then grab a little 25 key. If you're playing full piano parts, you may want 88 keys or at least 49 keys so that you can play chords and so that you can have more range. Most you can actually adjust the octave on as well, but make sure that you get something the right size for you. Make sure it's class compliant. Almost all of them are now, even 10-year-old ones like this, class compliant out of the box, so no problem with there. Decide on whether you want, almost all of them now have touch sensitive keys. Just check to make sure it does, but I don't think there's any on the market now that aren't touch sensitive, which means the harder you hit the key, the more velocity you get. So it will send the velocity of the note into your iPhone, your iPad, whatever software you're using, so you can actually use touch sensitive keys. But a lot of them, the higher end ones, have weighted keys, which means that when you press them, it's they're weighted, so they feel more like real piano keys, whereas ones like this, you can hear, you can't see, they're sort of plastic and you get that sound. In fact, I recommend the M Audio E-Keys 49, the Key Station 49, and someone bought it and then said they don't like it because the keys are so loud. And I actually had to say, I've never actually noticed it because I'm always wearing headphones when I'm using it, so that sound's never bothered me because I've usually got like a guitars and vocals and drums in the background while I'm laying down my keys. So if that sort of thing does bother you though, yeah, go for a higher end one that's got some weighted keys and you won't have that problem. So the M Audio, the Akai, the Korg, there's a bunch of other different manufacturers that all make MIDI keyboards. You really can't go too far wrong. What I would look for also is to make sure it has a connection for a sustain pedal if you're a piano player, and if you want to make sure you can plug in something like this, which is just a standard sustain pedal, just uses a 1/4-inch jack that plugs into your keyboard. And make sure that if you want this, the other features. So I'll pause for a moment here. If you're using something like GarageBand or most of the sort of MIDI programs that use MIDI, they may not support a lot of the different pads and dials and knobs that you have on a lot of your MIDI interfaces. So keep that in mind as well. So for GarageBand, for instance, what that actually does is it allows you to enter your notes. So it's going to do the velocity of the notes. You can also use your pitch bend wheel. So a lot of these have a pitch bend wheel, which makes it go dee, and a modulation wheel, which just impacts that effect that you have, a modulation effect on your sound. So they're the things. Your sustain can also be sent, and that's about it. So if you've got if you're looking at these keyboards like the Akai's and things that have all these drum pads, all these other programmable switches and bells and whistles, and you want to use them on your mobile device, just check the compatibility, because a lot of the time they won't actually be supported by all different applications. It will all vary, but yeah, it's usually quite simple. The iRig also make the iRig keys, and the iRig keys IO that we mentioned before. So as usual, iRig are in the market, and yeah, they again, you won't need, when you use an iRig product, you don't need this thing. your Lightning to USB adapter, because they'll plug in directly via Lightning, which is pretty cool. Hopefully that has answered the questions you had or didn't have all about our MIDI keyboards. So we'll just have a look here. It's Jeremy Ray Williams. Have the Korg Nano Series 2 portable and low power usage. Fits in your bag and backpack with your iPad. Excellent. Only $50 to $55 US. And come with the pitch buttons, mod button, and a sustain button. Class compliant, works great with Korg Gadget. Excellent recommendation. Yeah, honestly, Korg, Akai, and M Audio, you really can't go wrong here. Is there a substantial delay? So Thomas B. Kine, is there a substantial delay or lag using a Bluetooth keyboard? I have the X-Key Air 25 on an iOS device. Thank you. Yeah, so the reason I don't use Bluetooth is that it is still not there in terms of lag. Like USB has the tiniest amount of lag. Like some people, if you're an absolute perfectionist and you're playing a piano part on a USB keyboard, you might be like, there's a little tiny bit of lag there. You can usually fix it with quantizing or just live with it. But yeah, Bluetooth, I haven't used the newer Bluetooth keyboards. When they first started using Bluetooth keyboards and Bluetooth microphones, the lag was just completely unusable. So it was close to a second. And if you know anything about lag and latency, 1 second, like ding, ding, you can't actually do it. You can't play along. What I have heard is that they've improved that. So Bluetooth 4 or 5 or whatever version they're up to now has significantly improved the lag and the latency. So I don't know. Maybe I need to invest in a Bluetooth keyboard down the track. It would be very cool to just have that. I actually have, funny you should mention, I'm testing and reviewing this one at the moment. Just a little bit of a sneak peek. This is the Logitech K760. This is a wireless Bluetooth solar-powered keyboard. It's actually very, very cool. Very cool for your keyboard shortcuts on GarageBand. It hooks up via Bluetooth. Great for when you're using the iPad. So you've just got a keyboard there, and if I'm taking notes or if I'm in GarageBand, it's working really well. So watch out for that review coming soon. But that's obviously not the sort of Bluetooth keyboard that you're talking about. You're talking about a keyboard instrument. Alrighty, let's get on home because we've only got about 10 minutes to go and we've got a couple more topics to cover. Luckily, these are our slimmer topics, so we don't have to spend a lot of time on them. In fact, I might have actually jumped a couple. Yeah, I have. So I jumped over to MIDI keyboards because I got excited about that, and we didn't talk about adapter cables, power banks, and USB hubs, or headphones. So we will finish off by talking those. If you're here on the live stream, please ask any questions that you have and throw those out there. Once again, if you're watching on the replay, thank you. I really appreciate it, and please drop your comments as well down below, and I will get back to you if you've got any questions, or more importantly, if you've got recommendations. So if there are things that you use, we had some great recommendations here already, things that I hadn't used and that I didn't know about, and there's so much gear in this realm that there's plenty for folks to chime in on. So thank you for that. So let's jump back over to adapter cables. So we've already talked about the Lightning to USB, and these are kind of the gateway into everything. The thing to keep in mind, you can buy cheap versions of these. In fact, I did a video where I compared this $50 version with a $3 version that I got from eBay. And the $3 version worked, but you know what happens? Every time Apple update their iOS, they remove the usability of some of these cheaper devices. So they're not, I can't remember what it's called, compliant, MRI compliant. It's not that, but whatever they're not, that's why they're so cheap. And they don't work well because I've had ones that cut out. So you'll be halfway through a performance and then it'll just cut out and say, this accessory is not supported. Yeah, we've all seen that one. That horrible Apple message. Have never had that with these. So because these are supported by Apple, yes, you have to pay out the nose, the teeth, the whatever for them. $40 or $30 US and then $50 or $60 Australian. Probably lots of great British pounds and Canadian dollars and Japanese yen. But yeah, once you have one, that's it. And I've had this one now for over a year, and I've had my original one for a couple of years. And yeah, just everything I connect is through that. The other thing to keep in mind is if you want to connect more than one device at a time, you can. And you can do that with the help of our friend, the powered USB hub. And I've got another video coming out soon about powered USB hubs because there's a heap of confusion. And the problem is they don't sell many of these anymore because all of the hubs these days are one of two things. They either are not powered, so they don't actually have a legitimate wall power plug, which is what you need for a USB hub to use with your iPhone or your iPad, or they're just a charger bay. So people have bought just those charger bays and they're like, it's not working. Well, no, they only provide power. They don't provide any connection. So you actually need something that provides power as well as a USB connection. And it's really hard to find one with both. So people actually ask me, I honestly don't have a current recommendation because, yeah, on Amazon, like you search around and you can find charging hubs and you can find USB hubs without power. It's really hard to find. I think Anker makes some, so that's the brand that I kind of push people towards. That's a Swan brand one. I've got an old Belkin one that they don't make anymore that was really good at the time, and I've got a Logitech one as well. So there used to be plenty back in the day where you need a lot of powered devices. Now that everyone's using their phones for everything and using tablets and things, it's a bit of a niche accessory. So if you are buying one though, make sure it is USB, it is powered, so it has a wall power, like AC power that goes into it, and that it actually connects. So it does both of those things. It's not just one or the other. But what you can actually do with that is plug in. At the same time, you can plug in an interface and a keyboard. So I could be recording, and I did this in a video. So if you search Pete John's USB hub, you'll see where I plugged in my interface and my MIDI keyboard, and I recorded guitars, vocal, and keyboard at the same time. Like, not really, because I couldn't play all those, but I recorded 3 tracks at once using the 3 different inputs I had. So it's very cool if you want a bit more flexibility. And sometimes, if you just want to set up your studio, like if you're sitting for a big session, get everything plugged in, you don't have to be plugging in and out cables and doing other things like that. So it can be super handy and super convenient to have a powered USB hub. There was one other point that I had on that, which I now can't remember. So if I come back to it, or if someone asks a question, I'll answer it there. But finally, excuse me, the reason I've left this for last, not only because it's going to be the quickest one, but because I think it is the least important one, and people that are really into their good quality headphones will probably say, no, Pete, you must have headphones. But as I've said, as I opened with at the start of this, if you've just joined me through the middle of it, at the start I said, if you are starting out, there's nothing wrong with a pair of earbuds. And especially these ones like these that have the microphone and that have their earbuds, like these are great for recording with. And if you get a pair that doesn't have the microphone, they're really good for recording too, because what you're looking for with recording with earphones is you want, I'll take these off for a moment, you want sound isolation. So you want a closed back headphone. These are the Sennheiser HD 280s that I use for literally everything, for recording, for tracking, for mixing, for mastering, and for live streaming. So these are about a $100 headphone that, so yeah, like they're not super cheap. They're not 100% budget, but they are the best that I've come across. And again, like your Apple cable, for a $100 investment, I've had these 3-4 years now, and they're still in perfect condition. I use them every day, literally every day. So the reason that I say, use a pair of earbuds as well is that they go into your ears, and what you're fighting with tracking is bleed into your microphones. So if you're recording vocals or acoustic guitar or anything live sound, you need closed back headphones or earbuds because they're going to give you the best sound. If you just have headphones that sit on your ears, that are what we call open back, then too much of that audio is going to escape. So the Sennheiser HD 650s are really good headphones for mixing and mastering, not so good for tracking, because too much of the sound is going to bleed out. They're open back, too much sound is going to get out. So that's why I have and use and recommend the HD 280s, because they are closed, they isolate the sound, and they're really good quality for what you get. And I just love this Sproingy cable has saved me so many times. How many times have you been recording and you've walked away, or you've got into your guitar solo and you've gone ka-chunk and you've pulled out your cable, your guitar cable, your headphone cable? Yeah, just having this additional length on your cable is like, seriously, it's a gold feature. It's something that all headphones should have. All cables should be curly and coily, right? We'd cause ourselves a whole lot less damage if we did. All right. Okay, we are on the absolute homeward stretch. In fact, we've got about 2 minutes left. So if you have any final questions, I've probably got about 5 minutes of overtime. So if you're on the live stream, please jump in and ask a question, and then I will wrap up and we will get going. Again, it doesn't end here though. If you continue to have questions, put them in the comments. Even if you were here live and I didn't get to your question, I'm sorry. There were a heap of questions there. I probably didn't get to everyone's questions. So please repeat those down in the comments, and I'll jump in after the stream and do that. It does help me out if if you do like the video. So if you have got a lot of value out of this, would love you to hit the like button, love you to share the video with anyone else you think might be interested in setting up their own mobile recording studio or rig. You can head over to studiolivetoday.com/gear to check out the full list of gear that I use. And once again, if you do make a purchase from there, you will be supporting the channel. And even if you don't buy the gear that I recommend here, you may be aware of this, but if you actually go over there and then you choose another product, it will still give me a little bit of a commission on what you buy, because I've sent you to Amazon to buy that. So again, complete disclosure with that stuff, because yeah, you're supporting the channel, you're getting new gear. But if you want to buy it secondhand from a thrift store, if you want to buy it on eBay, I have no qualms about that, because yeah, I buy from all sorts of different places, wherever you get the best deal. Alrighty, let's check in here, see if we have any additional questions here before we head off. We've got, we've talked about delay, slightly off topic, but visually impaired, thoughts on the HDMI adapter or using the Effector app for PC. I'm not familiar, Reflector app. I use Reflector for PC. It's very cool. A little bit of lag, bit of delay if you're using AirDrop and Reflector. The HDMI connection has very low lag. So yeah, I do recommend that. There was someone that used it. Was it you, Darren, or was it someone else that actually showed me that they used, they connected up to their 50-inch or really large TV via the Lightning to HDMI connection. And it looked really cool. You're using your GarageBand or your Korg Studio or whatever you're using, Nano Studio, Korg Gadget, that's what I was trying to say, up on your big screen. Could be very, very cool. Suggestions for apps for editing samples on an iPhone. Thank you. Editing samples. So it depends on what level that you want to do in terms of your editing. I use Audio Share, which is a really simple application, but in terms of just getting your samples and trimming them and converting them, I use that. And then all of the actual affecting of my samples, I use GarageBand. So I just do it in GarageBand. So if I'm recording a sample, I will record it using Audio Share. It's got a built-in recorder. I will then grab that clip, I will trim it and edit it down to make it to start at the right point, also using Audio Share, and then I'll send it over to my Files app and import it into GarageBand or whatever application I'm using. So that works really well as well. So Jeremy, thanks for the stream, Pete. You rock. Thank you. Thunder from Down Under. Yes. What did someone call me? At one point, someone said, Pete's the Down Under tutorial dude. I'm like, yeah, there you go. I need to rebrand. Studio Live Today, no more. It's going to be the Down Under tutorial dude. Anyway, that's a bit of fun. So thank you once again. For those that have been here live, it's been a blast, and I really appreciate everyone's comments, everyone's questions. I hope you got some value from it. Once again, if you liked it, hit like. If you'd like to share it with anyone else, please do so. And if you were on the stream as well and you want to throw a comment, that also helps me out, because I love to hear what you thought of things. And if there were things I didn't catch as we went through the stream, we can jump back and do that. Thank you again for everyone for watching here today. If you want to head over to studiolivetoday.com, you can check out all of the rest of my content. New videos every single day at the moment, pretty much. I think I've missed one day this week. But yeah, we've got new videos coming out, about 5 or 6 to 7 per week, about all sorts of mobile recording topics and home studio topics as well. Thank you again. I will see you folks next time. Cheers.